All right, we got a new president to talk about, folks. We got President George H.W. Bush, which is Bush Sr., okay? He's going to be president from 1988 to 1992, making him a one-term president, and there's a very specific reason that cost him his re-election that we're going to talk about later, okay? So, one of the first things that he had to deal with, well, actually one of the last things he had to deal with in his administration was the Rodney King riots of 1992. It was April 26, 1992. So, South Central Los Angeles, Rodney King, basically what happened, if you look down here, we will see Mr. Rodney King right there, okay? Now, Rodney King had a criminal record. He's from Los Angeles. He had a criminal record a mile long, all right? And one night, Rodney decided that he was going to go out drinking and driving and doing a bunch of cocaine at the same time. So he's barreling down the freeway, going, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, and swerving all over the place, cutting other cars off. He's very dangerous at this point. And the cops stop him. And whenever he comes out of his car, he is aggressive towards the police officers. So the police officers, the all-white police officers, by the way, they beat Rodney King up. First of all, they handcuffed him. And then he continued to fight after he was handcuffed. And they beat him after he was handcuffed. Even after he was handcuffed. Now, they were justified in beating him before he was handcuffed because he was being combative towards them. But guys, once somebody's handcuffed, you don't keep beating them. Well, this video, there was a video taken of the incident from local people that were there. And what everybody in America saw was a black man being beat up by 4 white cops while he was restrained, while he was in handcuffs. And the people of Los Angeles had enough. They flipped out and they went to the streets in these huge Rodney King riots of 1992. They burned down buildings, they raped people, they killed people, they stole items from stores. They just burned everything in Watts in Los Angeles. Okay, so look at right here: 25 dead, 772 injured, and 1,000 blazes reported. So that is the Rodney King incident. Okay, so moving on, we have some other stuff to discuss. Around this time, the early 90s, late 80s, there was white flight occurring from our American cities, especially from the Rust Belt area. This is the Rust Belt. If you remember from the Industrial Revolution, all the factories were in the Middle East. Northeast. In the Northeast, this area right here. And now those factories have all been shut down because the jobs have moved over to cheaper manufacturing in Mexico and China. You guys know that. Everything's made in China, right? Well, because all these jobs are lost, people start moving away from this area. Meanwhile, the population of the South and the Sun Belt increases very much so. We have a couple of maps I want to show you just to get some little leap practice here, okay? This one is good at identifying regions. You can tell that. This one right here, and actually these two are population density maps, okay? So it shows you how many people are living in which area. Now, if you look at the key right here, or, basically the darker the color, the more people live there, okay? So if you look at this map, it's done totally different. Now, I'm showing you these different types of maps because I don't know what kind of maps they're going to use on the leap test, okay? This map is using points to tell you how many people live in the area. And I guess the question is, can you identify certain areas based on these maps? For instance, this huge spike right here, that's New York City, okay? This is going to be Miami down here. That's that little one right there, that's New Orleans, okay? We've got Houston, Dallas, we have Chicago, we have Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Washington, or Seattle. It should be Seattle, Washington. So this one I find interesting, okay? This is not a map at all. It's a photograph from space of the United States at night. And you can tell where the people live, simply based on the amount of light that is emanating from the area. Again, you can pick out New York City, Miami, Houston, Dallas, we've got Los Angeles, San Francisco, and we've got Seattle up here. This right here is Chicago, okay? So, very fascinating way, if you can tell, and you can really tell that nobody hardly lives here, okay? This is a vast desert area, and it's also the Rocky Mountains. Most of this land is owned by the government, and a lot of this land is national parks. It's some of the most beautiful land in all of the world, okay? All right, we're moving on from that. Latinos become the fastest growing minority in the U.S., while African Americans make a significant political gains during this time. Black mayors in Los Angeles, New Orleans, Detroit, Chicago, and Atlanta. Now today, things are kind of going weird, okay? Because of the massive amount of illegal immigration to this country, Latinos are the fastest growing group in America, and they are now, just now, in 2024, they have overcome black people. There are more Latinos in this country than black people now. And so it's white people are about 60%, and the Latinos are about 15%, and black people are about 12%, and the rest is others. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go back and talk about the Cold War a little bit. Actually, we're going to talk a little bit about after the Cold War. At this time, old communist influences, communist hardliners, tried to retake control of the Soviet Union. And the Russian president, Boris Yeltsin, calls for a general strike, which topples the Soviet Union. Yeltsin becomes the first president of the Commonwealth of Independent States, which replaces the Soviet Union. At the same time that the Soviet Union falls, Mao Zedong dies around this time, the leader of China, Communist China, and the guy that takes his place, his name is Deng Xiaoping. Okay, Deng Xiaoping replaces Mao. Chinese protesters want to see the political reform in China, and this leads to the Tiananmen Square massacre. Basically, folks, when Deng takes over, the people that had been longing for capitalism for a long time in China, they rose up against the Chinese government, and they wanted, with this change, they want a change towards capitalism. And so in the capital city, they go to Tiananmen, okay, and there is a massive protest where the military brutally kills 5,000 Chinese people there. And this is all, it all culminates in this one epic image right here. There was a man that believed in his cause so much that he went and he stood in front of a line of tanks that were advancing on the protesters. And when they moved, he moved. And this was recorded on film as the lone Chinese man standing up against the entire might of the Chinese Empire. Okay, that's the Tiananmen Square massacre.